Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we are going to be taking a first look at Yumiko, A New Beginning. This character is going to be the character reward at the upcoming War of Champions. You'll be able to get this character, generally speaking, it's by milestone progression, but we'll have to wait for the official announcement from Scopely to see how you gain this character. Now visually we have had a Yumiko in the game before, way back when, at the early stages of the Mythic era, and I think we did actually have, did we have a yellow Yumiko come out, or was that a Rosita? I think it was maybe a Rosita. I think there have been obviously multiple Yumikos in history of the game, but this is like the classic Yumiko with the bow, looks really cool. I like it. I like it. On the left hand side we can see the art in a bit better detail. You can also see a character in the background of Yumiko's art. And this character I have already kind of gone over in a teaser video, and it should be Magna, that's my guess. And Magna is the leader of a new allegiance, and as you can see, Yumiko is part of a new allegiance, so they're most likely going to be in a new allegiance together. We'll have to see more information there. But at level 1600 limit break 3, we have Yumiko at 11,217 attack, 38,325 defense, and 43,933 HP. She is going to be a tough character holding that bow, going to be a support role, Gold Mythic of course, and the brand new allegiance is going to be called the Armory. Now checking out Yumiko's Adrenaline Rush is called Target Prep. It's a 66 AP cost rush, so a little bit like slow for a defense team, and this character does look like a defense team character with those stats. All teammates get elusive for 3 turns. All Armory Allegiance teammates get Camouflage for 2 turns. This fighter heals for 50% of their max HP for the rest of combat and recovers from trauma. This obviously is, it's not too bad. Like I said, it is a bit slow to go off. She will require a couple of hits on her to get this on a natural turn 3. Otherwise, it would probably come down to maybe even, you know, turn 4. It really depends on how things go when it comes to the AP gain. She actually should be pretty fine, because obviously under defense you get slightly more AP, but all teammates getting elusive for 3 turns is brutal. If this goes off, this means any basic attacks will not gain an attacking character any AP when they hit that character, but only signature moves will gain the character AP. Like I say, pretty brutal. You can gain AP on, like, you know, skills, so if something says gain 50% of your max AP, you'll still gain that AP, but basic attacks will not give you any AP. You'll also not gain AP when you are attacked as well, just worth noting. Now the Armory Allegiance bonuses is just a nice little bonus. Camouflage for all teammates that are of that allegiance is good. This should include Yumiko herself, so at a very minimum it will be Yumiko who gets this buff, but it could potentially be Magna in the background and potentially other Armory Allegiance characters that should be coming out in the future. You'd expect there to be a reasonably decent defense team set up with these characters. The heal for the rest of combat obviously stacks with itself and other buffs, so if she does Adrenaline Rush more times, it'll go up to 100, 150%, and so on and so forth. Now, the last part where she recovers from trauma basically means that if a character resists or anything like that, she would take damage based on the trauma she had. So if she had 20,000 trauma and she resisted stun, she'd take 20,000 damage. Now, she has a specialist skill, as you can see, and that's going to make her resist a lot. But if trauma is on her, that could be a problem. But this will cleanse what is the problem for the specialist skill once she gets this Adrenaline Rush to go off. Okay, now we can use this on an attack team just to show you how it works. I can just do the Adrenaline Rush, as you see, and Yumiko will be healing for 50% of her max HP. She'll also have elusive, as will the rest of her team, for 3 turns, and she'll have Camouflage. She is the only person in this allegiance so far, so she's the only person who would get this buff. But if there were more characters part of the Armory Allegiance, then obviously there'll be more characters with Camouflage. And Camouflage just stops AoE skills from hitting characters that are not directly targeted by that skill, which generally would mean less overall damage that an attack team can do. So just generally damage reduction, increased survivability for the characters that get Camouflage on them. It's pretty much as simple as that. Now if we look at the upgrades, you can see at grade 3 it gets an upgrade where all teammates get elusive for 3 turns, so only 1 copy required for this. At grade 5 it gets an upgrade where it heals for the rest of combat instead of just maybe for like 2 turns. And then at limit break 2, it'll be a plus 25% heal boost, so it'll go from a 25% heal for the rest of combat up to a 50% heal for the rest of combat. Now, when it comes to the grades, how it has worked in previous Warrior Champions is you get all of the characters, like all 5 copies of the character for hitting a particular tier in the milestones. So these grades might not matter too much. You might be able to just get the character fully decked out to limit break 3 as long as you get to, I think it was like 100 or 150k milestone. I think it was not a crazy milestone. And that way it's just about you actually tiering the character up. So you should be able to get all of these to happen unless something changes. Like I said, we'll wait for Scopely's announcement on that. But when it comes to Adrenaline Rush, it is okay. When it goes off, Elusive is going to be very problematic. It is a little bit slow, like I said, but Camouflage is going to slow down the fight. Basically, if you're not taking advantage of this buff, like this rush not having gone off yet, if it does go off, it's going to massively reduce your chance of winning the battle quickly because you're not going to gain AP as much, your AoE damage is not going to hit as well, and then characters are going to have increased survivability, including Yumiko because of the heal. So the Adrenaline Rush is just okay, but generally speaking, that's how it works on defense teams. If this does go off, it will be problematic in terms of your speed of victory. However, generally speaking, the other parts of a character's kit on a defense team that are important are going to be things like the signature move, and this signature move is called Striking Attention. It has got an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 1 turn, number of uses unlimited, taunt an enemy for 2 turns, but it gets +1 taunt target while on the defense team, so it would be then 2 targets for 2 turns. This fighter and 2 teammates recover from 3 negative status effects and get 100% defense for 2 turns. So this isn't actually too bad, like a little signature move here, especially considering her Adrenaline Rush is 66 AP. When she's on a defense team, this will be 2 characters getting taunted, and a taunted target will always give the enemy at least 5 AP base and +1 generally. So generally it's 5 base from taunt, +1 from the damage, but obviously the higher damage you do, the more AP you're going to give. Based on the weapon, it could be like AP on defense, but generally speaking, it's going to be a minimum of 5 + 5 +1 +1. So an extra 12 AP on turn 2, which can make up the difference between 55 and 66. So you should be fine on the Adrenaline Rush speed here. Now the second part of this, where it says this fighter and 2 teammates recover from 3 negative status effects and get 100% defense for 2 turns, is obviously quite nice, mainly for the other characters that are going to get the kind of recover. The 2 teammates recovering is really nice. Yumiko recovering is quite nice, but she's less likely to even have those effects on her in the first place. Plus, obviously, she can get immunity to at least 2 if you want to, because of how her specialist skill works, stacking with her combat mods. So you could go for Daze Resist and a Stun Resist. That means she will never be able to get stunned, never be able to get dazed, and she'll have much more likeliness to be able to consistently get off this signature move, cleansing teammates, which could be very nice indeed. You know, cleansing things like infection, bleed, burn, and that can get through certain defense teams much quicker and make it quite nice when you're just cleansing that consistently. And this is a very quick cleanse. Every other turn she'll be able to do the signature move. So if she rushes, she'll be doing a signature move before it, rushing, then signature move after it. So it's very, very nice on the speed there. 100% defense as well for 2 turns means any kind of percentage damage will be negated if the percentage damage is from attack. And this is very nice indeed. Just reduced incoming damage is a big bonus for sure. So here we go with Yumiko on defense. As you can see, I'll hit the defend action on everybody, and she will get her signature move off, gain a little bit of AP. A couple of my characters have been taunted. One did hit her, and you can see she's close to max AP. She might need an AP on defense weapon to consistently get her Adrenaline Rush for turn 2, but she'll be absolutely fine for turn 3, which is great, because she'll do a basic attack this turn, which you'll see, and she'll be well on course to rush naturally turn 3, which is kind of what we wanted to see, of course. Now going straight into the upgrades on the signature move, you can see at grade 2 it will be an upgrade where it's going to be +1 taunt target 1 on the defense team. So initially it's going to be a single target and taunt for 2 turns, and then it will be boosted to 2 targets for 2 turns while on the defense team. You did see in the previous clip someone did resist. This can happen, of course, that's how it works. And then at grade 4 you'll get -1 to starting cooldown, which is of course just 1 copy, and then it'll be obviously a 1 turn starting cooldown, so you'll be able to do it off the first turn. Then at limit break 1 it'll get +2 defense up and negative status effects recover targets. So initially it's just herself and that's the only character that gets that to happen. And then afterwards, she'll do it to 2 other teammates as well, which is honestly really, really good. And that's the main part of this signature move, in my opinion. Being able to cleanse 2 other teammates with 3 negative effects is big. We're talking things like normalize, we're talking things like any sort of control to stop people from doing their adrenaline rushes, so on and so forth, taking their turn. It can be very problematic indeed. Then the last one is going to be Limit Break 3, and it is going to be +2 negative status effects recovered. So initially it's just going to be 1 negative status effect recovered, and it will go up to 3. Now this should target people in the team of Yumiko in the Outlaw state who are controlled if they are one of the last 2 remaining characters. That's generally how it works with cleanses. If there's 2 characters left, one's in Outlast and they've been, let's say, stunned, but they've got their adrenaline rush ready, Yumiko will cleanse that stun and that character will still be able to adrenaline rush. That is going to be quite useful in the team ups with some Outlast characters, namely someone like Eris, who has normalized resistance already, so she's got a very good chance of going into Outlast. Could be really good there. Taunt is pretty cheesable though, so you would want to team up Yumiko with someone who either punishes an attack team for getting focus or removing focus. There could potentially be characters that come out in the armory that do that as well, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, nice signature move. It's going to be very useful for Yumiko and the way her kit works so far. Now the next part of Yumiko's kit is going to be Yumiko's mythic abilities. These are her passive skills. She is of course going to have Cunning because she is a support character. When attacking or being attacked, 30% less likely to trigger enemy weapon effects and walker effects. In their second passive is called Focused Backlash. When an enemy receives the focus status effect, 100% chance they get 10,000 bleed and burn damage for 2 turns. This is what I was talking about. She is punishing people who get focus herself, and that is actually quite a lot of damage. That's 20k damage that an attack team character is going to take each turn. Will generally take someone out, but 20k damage even off of 1 turn is very, very hard to deal with. The next one is called Group Healing. At the start of each turn, one teammate heals for 50% of their max HP, and all Armory Allegiance teammates heal for 15% of their max HP. This is obviously nice to counter some infection and just to keep the HP up of everyone on the team. It would have been nice to see that she was a medic if she's going to consistently heal like this. I don't think her role is that big a deal, but if she's going to be consistently healing every turn, that would have been nicer. But this is quite nice. It would obviously stack together, so she's in a full team of Armory teammates. One of those Armory teammates will get 50%, but then everyone, including that character, would get a further 15%. This will just keep the ball rolling, keep everyone's HPs nice and topped up as well. The last one is going to be 40% normalized resistance. Now, this doesn't seem that great, but because of her special skill already giving her 60% normalized resistance, because she'll get 60% resist to everything that exists, it should stack with this and give her 100% normalized resistance. This extra 40% means that if someone is not a control, she would be immune to that normalize. And just to show that's the case, I have got Titan here, who is a normalizer, but he is not of the control role, so he will not be able to bypass that 40% extra. When I do his signature move, you can see it will not affect her. She is immune to normalize from non-control role enemies, and a control role will only be able to do it 40% of the time. That's how that part of the passive works. The rest is obviously the heals, so if I was to do some more damage, it would actually be interesting to see if she can actually be targeted by that 50% heal. We'll try and get her lower. There we go, we've got quite a nice big hit there. We'll get the defend. She can get the 50% heal herself, and generally the way the random healing will work is heals will always go to characters that have the lowest HP. So as long as someone's got low HP, they will receive that 50%, or in this case 65%, because they both stack together. Now you didn't see it in that clip there. Obviously if someone did receive focus, they would have received 10,000 burn and 10,000 bleed. I think you saw it in maybe a previous clip, because I had Anniversary Glenn in the team and he had focus, so he had 20k damage on him from turn 1. But that's just how it would work if there was any focus on the team. And obviously if it's a full team focus, everyone's going to get that, and that's obviously brutal. If we look at the upgrades though on these passives, you can see at grade 1 we get the first half of Focused Backlash. When an enemy receives the focus status effect, 50% chance they get 10,000 bleed and burn damage for 2 turns. At grade 2, we get the first half of Cunning. When attacking or being attacked, 15% less likely to trigger enemy weapon effects and walker effects. And then on to grade 3, we get the second half of Focus Backlash, making it a 100% chance that they get 10,000 bleed and burn damage when receiving the Focus status effect. On to grades 4 and 5. At grade 4, the first half of Group Healing comes in. At the start of each turn, one teammate heals for 20% of their max HP, and all Armory Allegiance teammates heal for 15% of their max HP. And at grade 5, we get the first half of Special Person, being 20% normalized resistance for Yumiko. Into the limit breaks, we have Cunning 2 come in at limit break 1. When attacking or being attacked, now 30% less likely to trigger enemy weapon effects and walker effects. This is going to mainly be when she is attacked. She doesn't have any attack-based Sinich move or rush or anything like that. Then at limit break 2, she has Group Healing 2 come in. At the start of each turn, one teammate now heals for 50% of their max HP, and all Armory Allegiance teammates still heal for 15% of their max HP. Remember, like I showed, it does stack together, and it also can be Yumiko who gets that heal too if she is the lowest HP. Then at limit break 3, we get a further 20% normalized resistance, making it 40% total. Stacking with her special skill gives her 100% normalized resistance, and obviously the only characters that can bypass would reduce this part of the passive if they were off the control roll. They would not reduce anything to do with the actual resist when it comes to her specialist skill. So these passives obviously are very, very nice, kind of well-rounded when it comes to building, you know, Yumiko as a character. She punishes those focus characters, like I said, someone needed to do on her team, but she's doing that herself. And then she's also healing everybody. That's like a nice little bonus. Like I said, maybe it would have been nicer that she was a medic, but it's not that big a deal. You know, it would have been 20% bonus HP from the heals. It wouldn't be that big, but it would obviously be just nice little bonus there. And then I do obviously like the normalized resistance. It really works well with her kit. We'll look at her specialist skin in a moment, and she could obviously hold certain, you know, weapons to reduce damage, being like a Regina team. And then there's less characters that can potentially hit that normalized because of how many, you know, how little normalizers there are out that are even control roll anyway. So yeah, very interesting when it comes to the kind of setup for Yumiko's kit so far. Now you might have noticed one extra little special thing happened in the last clip. We will check that out. It is on the weapon. But let's first look at the specialist skill to see how that specialist skill works. Now this is not the first Resilient 2, but it is a new improved version of the initial Resilient. And it is, this character has a 60% resistance against all status effects. This stacks with all other resistances, which is an additive, which means that if you have 2 mods at 40% or higher, she will get extra resistances. I would still say use as high resistance as possible in those mods, so that if she does get normalized, it will then revert to the mod percentage. Because if she's normalized, this goes down to 0% boost from resilience. But if she still has a 90% stun resist, she now has 90% stun resist, and a control roll character only has a 50% chance of stunning her. Just a little tip there. And then the last part is the new part. This specialist skill is immune to the control roll passive. This means that no control roll character can reduce her resist below 60%, but they can reduce it down to 60%. So if you did have a passive that boosted up to 100% immunity, a control roll then could push it down to 60%. But if you had, for instance, a buff on her that only gave her, let's say, 20% of a resistance, so she had 80%, a control roll could still only drop it down to 60%. So she's always going to have 60% resist to everything, which is obviously very powerful. It's exactly how Brutus works. Quite hard to deal with that sort of character. And then there are, of course, builds that you can do on these characters when it comes to their weapon and so forth, where like the number of negative effects they have, they can heal. And there's a Brutus and a roadmap that does exactly that. So that's how that specialist skill works. It works well with the rest of the kit. The kit has definitely come together. Very nice defensive kit. Quite good base stats as well. But the weapon, let's check that out. And here's where it gets a little bit juicy. If we check out Yumiko's weapon, it is Yumiko's robust bow. It has 40% defense, 40% HP, improved confuse when hit. When being attacked, a 60% chance to confuse the attacker for their next turn. And in the last slot, it has improved stonewall. This fighter gets 50% defense at the start of each wave for 2 turns. And also this fighter's defense cannot be reduced. This is obviously massive. This means you can't obviously do defense down on this character, although she'd have a 60% chance to resist it anyway, you can't do it. You just actually cannot reduce her defense. This means that those defense buffs on her are like super powerful, but the defense buff at the beginning of the fight is nice until she gets her snitch move off. It's just basically just until she gets that snitch move off, she's still got a defense buff, which is, like I said, going to be super powerful because it can't be reduced. But the third slot, this is unique. You cannot craft this. I don't think there are any weapons in the game that actually have this. One turn confuse is powerful. It lands on the wrong character on an attack team, and they can nuke like half of your attack team if they've got AoE on splash or anything like that. Someone like Danny, very problematic indeed. This is a very, very, very nice third slot for sure. You did see it in like the clip before where they just started hitting each other. That is kind of funny. I will say the stats on this are a little bit low, unfortunately. It's 40%, 40%. I would have preferred it to be like 45 to 40 or 45, 45, just so you could get one of these to 45 and one of them to 55. It would have been nicer, because I think the third and fourth slot are not going to be removed. I think those are obviously great third and fourth slots. If you want to swap out the weapon and use a totally different weapon, that's fine, but it would have been nicer to have the stats a little bit higher. Which stat would I go for? I'd probably try and balance it a little bit. Maybe 50% HP and 45% defense is what I've got in my mind. So that's just a little first look at Gold Mythic Yumiko, who is going to be the War of Champions character reward. Scopely will announce how that character is acquired, but generally speaking, in previous War of Champions, it has been via milestones and progression. We'll see if you can get the character during the war, or if they'll wait until after the war when you can claim it. I think the last War of Champions, they waited until afterwards, because a lot of people don't like the meta change midway through war, and I think this character has the potential to create like a new meta on defense, so people might be having to come up with like anti-teams mid-War Champions, and that's the reason why I think people don't like to do that, especially people who take War Champions extremely competitively serious. They don't want to have to be distracted by a new character coming out in the middle of war that could affect the outcome, when they just want to be using what they've practiced and already formulated in the current, weeks beforehand. We'll see what Scopely decide to do in terms of how the release will work there, though. Let me know your thoughts on Yumiko as a character that you're going to go for as, a War of Champions release character. I want to thank you very much for tuning into my video, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.